live up to that endorsement. Thank everyone for coming tonight. This is the first time I've actually talked about Bill 66 to an audience, so you can judge me on how well I explain it. And let's go through it. So what is Bill 66? I'm going to talk a little bit about that. What does it mean at a community level? What are the implications of this for people here in Simcoe County, but also more broadly across Southern Ontario? And then just talk a little bit about what a number of us are doing to try and organize to change the trajectory of this bill and try and make sure that it doesn't get passed. And that includes folks with the Simcoe County Greenbelt Coalition, as well as many other organizations in regions throughout the province. So let's start with the first one. What is the bill? So this is a new bill. You may have seen in the media. It's been also called the Open for Business bill. It was introduced on December 6th, which just happens to be my dad's birthday, so he's not very happy that this was introduced on his birthday. And it received first reading. So if you follow how bills get passed, you have to have the bill gets read first into the House, then it has to come back for a second reading, and then will go to committee, and then it'll come back with any changes for third and final reading before our Lieutenant Governor signs it and becomes law. So we're quite early in the process right now, and which gives us a chance to work on changing the direction of this bill. The legislature is recessed now until February 19th, so we have a little bit of time to talk about this and make some changes. So this is what's called an omnibus bill, and the word omnibus bill became probably better known to the Canadian population because the last federal government used them quite a bit. There was a lot of omnibus bills that changed a lot of legislation. In particular, there was a large omnibus bill that changed a lot of federal legislation all around trying to make the world safer for pipelines. So you remember the Environmental Assessment Act, the Fisheries Act, the Navigable Waters Act. A whole bunch of other federal legislation was changed in 2012 in one huge piece of legislation. So the genesis of this approach to legislative change emerged at that time, and many of the people that were involved in that at the federal government level are currently involved with pushing this omnibus bill forward with our new provincial government. So what it does is it makes changes to the Greenbelt Act, the Lake Simcoe Protection Act, the Oak Ridges Marine Conservation Act, the Clean Water Act, and the Planning Act. So these are the most significant ones in terms of what I'm going to be talking about tonight. This, being a very large bill, also involves changes to toxics legislation, worker rights, labor standards, but I am not going to explore all of those, but I'm going to focus very much on the issues related to protection of Lake Simcoe and broader planning issues around protection of our environment and sprawl. It also creates new municipal powers to override these provincial land use laws. So, and I'll dig into that a little bit and how that would actually happen. So, at a municipal level, the structure of this bill, what it will do is allow municipalities to pass these open for business bylaws. So what that will mean is that a council, either a city council or a regional council, will be able to meet and they will be able to pass a bylaw that would specifically allow a particular area that's now protected. So protected countryside in the Greenbelt, areas off limits to develop within the Lake Simcoe watershed, areas within the Oak Ridges Moraine, source water protection areas around wellheads which protect our drinking water. These areas would then, the bylaw would specifically say, this development over here, which is going to include a factory or a gravel quarry or a residential development or a retail outlet, commercial outlet, a new subdivision, is going to go in there. These this bylaw would be able to be debated and passed without public notice. So there's going to be no public notice requirements to you as citizens at a community level. Once it's passed, it would be then sent to the Minister of Municipal Affairs, who has responsibility for municipal legislation in Ontario. They would then approve it, and then it would track towards the development going ahead. This bylaw would not be appealable to the new local planning appeals tribunal, which is a replacement for the Ontario Municipal Board. I'm sure most of you have heard of the Ontario Municipal Board. Well, the previous government changed the legislation and replaced it with a new body that has a slightly different mandate, but is still involved with appeal of municipal decisions. But these open for business bylaws would not be appealable to that body. So once they're approved, by the provincial government, they would track towards the development going ahead. The description is that from the government they're saying is that the primary use for these new bylaws is to create, to open up these protected areas so that new factories can be created. But residential, retail, commercial uses would also be allowed as long as they were not the primary reason for the bylaw. So you can imagine there could be a package of proposals that would include a factory, big box store, new subdivision, etc. What the whole package, it's hard to know until we see one coming forward. And I mentioned that there is no public notice requirements, no public comment period for the proposal, nor public meetings.
Great.
No, I already covered that, so that's great. What's interesting is that this past fall there was a whole series of consultations around the province, mainly with the development community, but there was some public meetings. There was a very large one in Toronto. And one of the things that complaints being brought forward actually by municipal representatives and the development community is that we have a current surplus of land within our municipal boundaries that is zoned for employment purposes. So places that you would actually be able to build a factory or a new big box store or whatever, as well as a surplus of lands that are designated for new residential development. So, and this is because all of our municipalities, during their development of their municipal plans, have to identify employment lands. They have to identify areas as part of their provincial, following the provincial planning rules, where you could build a new factory, where you would build a new subdivision, where you would build new retail outlets. So these lands have been identified. And of course, identifying them doesn't mean that someone's going to come forward with investment money to actually build a factory there. So what we end up with, as you know, the example I'm using here from Simcoe, is a large surplus of land beyond what the current needs are that is already zoned with infrastructure. So with roads, with sewers, with water mains, where you could, if you were someone who wanted to invest, build a factory. And that's 2,919 hectares. So of course, for folks that still think in acres, like I do when I think of land, that's 2.5 times as much land as that if you think about it in terms of acres. So this is a lot of land just within Simcoe County that is currently available to develop new factories if someone came out of the woodwork and wanted to build one. We were laughing about it the other day, saying that that there's enough land just here in Simcoe County that if Elon Musk showed up and wanted to build a new Tesla gigafactory in Simcoe County, he could do it 100 times over just in the land that's available in Simcoe County. So we're not short of land to make room for new employment in this region or anywhere else in Southern Ontario. And what we were hearing at these consultations was a desire to convert these lands, these employment lands, to other uses, to turn them into subdivisions, to turn them into retail outlets, because there was inability to attract investors to build new employment in those areas. And if you think about that, that's the way that things have been going in this province. The manufacturing base has been changing. The new employment opportunities are not related to the same level of heavy industry. I'm sure you've all followed what's going on in Oshawa with the closure of the GM plant there. We don't have a shortage of industrial land in this province to be made available for factory uses. Next, please. So, what are some of the impacts? When you see some of the media coverage of this and some of the defense coming from members of provincial parliament, from the government caucus, they say, well, it'll just be here and there, but not the whole Greenbelt will be developed, or we'll protect the integrity of the Greenbelt. But you have to think about what actually happens the minute that this bill is passed. We've had a growing trend that started back in the 1970s of this province of sending a clearer and clearer message about where development is appropriate and where it isn't. And what happens is when you change that, when you basically say what this bill will do once it passes, is that anywhere in Southern Ontario, even areas that have been off limits, source water protection areas, the Greenbelt, the Oak Ridges Moraine, if you want to buy land there, you can speculate. And if you can convince a local municipal council to have a secret meeting and to convert your land into a developable piece of land, go for it. So suddenly all of that farmland no longer has value as farmland. It has speculative value as a possible trajectory to go from farmland or forest cover to now being developable. And that completely changes the speculative value of land within the entire province. And we've been trying to get away from that. We've been trying to get away from that to create a safer space for farm communities where we knew that there could be multi-generational farms, that we knew that we could protect our farmland to supply local food, to supply local businesses, to make it more possible to have someone who hadn't been a farmer but maybe wanted to become a farmer to actually buy the land because it doesn't have a speculative value that's worth $80 million for a 100-acre farm. So all that changes the minute this legislation passes. Loss of natural heritage areas and water protection. It's not just the development that occurs remote from an existing community. It's the need for the infrastructure to get there. It's the need for the roads, the sewers, the water. All of that fragments these natural areas and farmland. Obviously, it erodes local democracy. The bill specifically sets out a path to reduce your ability as citizens to be involved in decision making, specifically prohibits your involvement in being informed of this, being consulted on it, or having any rights of appeal. And ultimately, this is especially true of smaller communities like in the area around Midhurst here or other areas that are more rural, is that there's a relatively small tax base trying to pay for infrastructure that all of us want to benefit from. Everybody wants to be able to have their garbage picked up, their kids be able to bus to school, water and sewage. If you have a relatively low tax base, sprawl and dispersed development is much, much more expensive. There's a really good reason why I pay lower property taxes on my house in Toronto than probably most of you do in more rural areas. And it's because it's much cheaper to provide services to a higher density population in a small area. And the more that we go in the opposite direction, the more your taxes are going to go up to pay for it. And there's also a lot of conversation going on right now. We expect to see something more coming out of government this month about rolling back development charges, taking more of the burden off the development of new subdivisions and putting it back onto the tax base, so that you would, as taxpayers, would get to subsidize this new sprawl that's going to be enabled by this bill. So what can we do? Well, obviously we can oppose the bill, and I think that's why a lot of us are here tonight, is to hear more about this. This is, to me, a perfect opportunity to have a conversation with your local member of provincial parliament. This affects people in a very tangible, very real way, in their backyard, in their pocketbook, in their future tax burden, in what their communities look like, in what their natural heritage is going to look like around their community, what their recreation opportunities are, where the local food is coming from. And you need to impress it upon your member of provincial parliament, if you care about this, that you expect them to vote against this bill on second reading, and that it has to be changed. We cannot have secret meetings by municipal councils to approve development on protected areas in this province. We need to ask our municipalities to oppose it, both to make their opposition to this bill known, but also refuse to undermine local democracy by implementing these bills if they were passed. You need resolution from your local municipal council saying, even if the province manages to ram this through, our council is not going to use these open for business bylaws and override our democratic rights as citizens in this community. And your local councils need to pass that resolution. And a number across the province have already done that. I think it's really, really important to get a groundswell of public opposition in the form of council resolutions to this bill. Like anything, talk to your friends and family about what the implications of this bill are. This is something that is very easy to explain what the consequences are. We know what portion of the Ontario public really deeply cares about protection of natural heritage, of the Greenbelt, the Oak Ridges Moraine, of Lake Simcoe. That support and that concern crosses party boundaries. This is not a Liberal, Tory, NDP, Green Party issue. All of the information that we have about public support for these values shows that it crosses party affiliation. So, you don't have to anticipate getting into a big fight over dinner when you talk to your family members about like whether or not we should protect the Greenbelt, because everyone agrees that this is incredibly important. And it's a really good way to build a conversation around protecting something that's valuable. And I think one thing to underline that's really important to remember is that this has been a multi-government initiative to increasingly protect these areas. Back when Mike Harris was premier, they brought in something called smart growth, which was really about the first steps towards creating a more rational approach to planning and protecting areas. The Oak Ridges Moraine Conservation Act wasn't NDP or the Liberals, that was the Conservatives that did that. Niagara Escarpment Commission, back in the 1970s when I was a kid. Conservative Governor Bill Davis did that. This has been something that multiple governments in Southern Ontario have been moving forward on to increase the amount of protection for important natural areas, protect our drinking water, to bring a smarter approach to development. And this government is deciding it wants to roll it all back against their own history as a conservative government. So keep that in mind when you're talking to your friends and neighbors. I talked about stopping its implementation. And then I think one of the things that if we don't win on this, and I'm not planning on not winning, I don't think any of you are either, but we need to make it really clear to the development industry, the real estate industry, to the councils in your local area, is that we are going to watch, we're going to follow every single move under this legislation and fight every single one of these developments that tries to go ahead under this undemocratic, destructive legislation. I just want to talk a little bit about some of the work that we have underway. If you want to learn more about deeper engagement at a community level, you're all connected very, very well here. But a number of us are organizing a big meeting this coming Saturday in Ajax. And registration is still open for that, so you're more than welcome to attend there and learn more about how a number of organizations across the province are getting out on the ground, talking to every single person within their community on the door-to-door canvas, connecting with their MPPs for meetings, etc. So that's coming up this weekend.
Yeah, and we're arranging for people that want to go if they want to carpool, trying to gather people so that people don't have to all drive down on their own. So if you want to be coming to the meeting as a part of our carpool, which I don't know, maybe we'll have a caravan, who knows. You can just leave your name with Ross at the back and an email, and if you're available, then we'll try and loop you into how we're getting down there. I won't be there, unfortunately, but.
We have, at Environmental Defense, we have raised some money, so we've just this week are printing 4,000 lawn signs. So these look like campaign signs. There's a number of different messages. This is one of them: to protect like Simcoe, protect the Greenbelt, protect our drinking water. They go to a new website that a number of groups have gone together on to develop, which has resources and information and media coverage, places where you can tell you to go where you can go pick up more signs, how you can link with other people in your community, etc. We will have all those at the organizing meeting. The website, which will go up this weekend, will give you locations where you can pick up more signs. I'm sure there's going to be some here as well. So, well,
we've got, if you haven't stopped at the Take Action page, there's 4 types of signs, right? So yeah. This is just one of them. If you want to sign up, be an early bird special, and even though they're still free, early bird, you can put your name and a phone number and the sign that you want and how many. So maybe you have a neighborhood that you want to canvass and you want 10. Then put all the information down on the Take Action page, and we'll do best to fill requests, but of course we're sharing it with the entire province, so we can't guarantee that everybody's going to get exactly what they want, but we'll endeavor to do our best.
And this is the website. We're just actually just got the final mock-up from the designers today, so we'll be sharing that with a whole bunch of the people that are working together on it, including Margaret and others, to get it finalized, we hope, before the weekend. We also have developed with our designers all of these different infographics, which will be available on the website that you can use. You can put them on your Facebook, share them with your friends, use them with your local organization, that talk about different values that we're trying to protect by stopping this bill. So all that stuff is available on the website as well.
Yeah, and we have the Stop Bill 66 if you go to our Facebook page and you want to put it on your profile. So you get like a little ribbon on the bottom that says, I want to stop Bill 66. If you go to our Facebook page, it's a really simple try it and it'll pop up. You don't have to know anything more than pushing a button.
Yeah. So this weekend, again, just to reiterate, it'd be great if people could come. We're expecting about 150 people, I think, to this organizing meeting. We're all going to go over to the Minister of Conservation and Parks office. We're going to make a bunch of signs at noon hour with magic markers. And then we got 2 buses, and we're going over to the Minister's office, which is in Ajax. And we're gonna, get cold in front of his office for an hour and a half or so with 150 people with Stop Bill 66 signs there. So you can either come and join us in the cold to do that, or you can just come for the rest of the day, have lunch, learn more about this, learn more what people in your community are doing, and yeah, that's it. Thanks a lot.